One was at our birthday cake.
Fresh chocolate chip cookies.
Yeah, those look good. All right, I call to order the August 26th meeting of the Los Alamitos Planning Commission. Could I have a roll call, please?
Chair Riley,
Here?
Vice Chair Quilty,
Here.
Commissioner Daniel,
Here.
Commissioner DeBolt,
Here.
Commissioner Gross,
Here.
Commissioner Lowe,
Here.
Commissioner Silvercat.
Here. Would everyone please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge of Allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
At this point, I'm going to open the floor to oral communications. If there is anyone here tonight that would like to come forward and speak on an item that's not on the agenda, this would be the time to come forward and do so. Seeing no one come forward, I will close oral communications and we'll move on to approval of the minutes. We have minutes for the regular meeting of June 24, 2015. Does anyone have comments or a motion?
I'll make the motion to approve.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
And I abstain. And then I have the minutes for July 22nd, 2015. Comments, corrections,
I'll make
motion.
a motion to approve.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? None. Motion carried. We have no items on the consent calendar, so we'll move on to public hearings. Continued discussion of massage ordinance, item 7A. Staff report?
Thank you, Chairman and Commissioners. Tonight we bring before you an ordinance to amend the Los Alamitos zoning code to provide that massage establishments would be allowed in the CG zone subject to a conditional use permit. Massage establishments have gone back and forth on a swing of regulations over the past few years. We had a bill come in, SB 731, which created a nonprofit organization, California Massage Therapy Council, to provide voluntary certification to massage therapists and massage practitioners. They kept getting their law amended to strengthen the protection for massage therapists until it got to be to the point where essentially you could not regulate a massage establishment unless the same rules applied to all other similar types of professional businesses. So you couldn't look at the individual impacts. They actually had more protection than First Amendment businesses. What happened as a result of SB 731 is that massage establishments in many cities proliferated. San Gabriel, for example, went from about 12 to, I don't know, it was 59, 69. I've lost track because every time we have a number, somebody else comes in. The legislature listened to all the complaints that were coming from the cities. They adopted AB 1147 last year, which restored our local land use control, allowing us to treat them individually and not the same as any other professional service. So before, if you wanted to put hours of operation on a massage establishment to close at 8 o'clock, you couldn't unless every hair salon closed at 8 and every doctor's office closed at 8 and attorneys and accountants and everybody else closed at 8 o'clock. So we're changing Title 17 to add the conditional use permit, adding some definitions, requiring that with the submission of the conditional use permit, we get a detailed floor plan, that it's scaled in inches and feet and labeled in English. The massage establishment ordinance that, we've all shared them as city attorneys. I've done a couple presentations for the league. We've picked where problems occurred in other cities, things coming in centimeters, things coming in that nobody could really figure out what they were even supposing to represent because it wasn't English. And that's basically what the zoning ordinance before you is tonight to recommend approval. What we've given you as well is the proposed ordinance that's going to go to the city council that's going to set up the specific regulations for massage establishments. Not because the planning commission makes any recommendation on that, but it's kind of hard to understand what you're doing with massage establishments and the CUP requirements if you don't understand the complete regulatory context that's being established for these businesses. So that's what you have tonight. I am more than happy to answer any questions regarding these. What-
How many are in the community?
What?
How many do we have right now in the community?
3.
We have 3 licensed ones in the city of Los Alamitos. One is next to Starting Gate. The other one's the corner of Florista and Los Alamitos Boulevard. And one is Majestic, which is in the 7-Eleven shopping center on Catella. That's the third.
For the existing businesses, anything that was legally in existence on May 1st, 2015, which would be those 3, get to stay without having to get a conditional use permit. I think those 3 existed even before SB 731, Steve. Was that the
One did
case?
not.
One did not.
One came in after the laws got laxed, and then the 2 were here before that.
And also, this ordinance is exempt from CEQA.
Any other questions for staff?
I have a couple questions. First of all, the page 3
Of which ordinance?
of the
The-
staff report.
Oh, okay.
It talks about the establishments and basically where they're going to be located, and it talks about non-arterial and arterial streets. Is that this distinction of those 2 types of streets defined somewhere?
In the general plan, they are, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and it actually has a table of which ones are and which ones aren't.
We have a map in our
That's
office
changed.
too with it, if you need to see. Yeah.
But that's part of the changing,
And, right. So that was the prior code.
Prior.
And currently, I forgot to mention that there is a moratorium ordinance that the council put into existence.
What about the situation where somebody's conducting or providing massages as physical therapy in, let's say, a chiropractor office? Is that now going to become a massage establishment?
No. The other ordinance that we provided you, the Chapter 5.32, contains certain exemptions. So if you are working under the direction of your registered nurse or an LVN and your license, oh, I'm sorry. It's the long ordinance. It starts on page 7 of 27 under exemption.
Okay.
So if you're employed by a chiropractor, or you still have to get a CAMTC certificate. We want to make sure that anybody who is providing massage has a CAMTC
Right.
certificate. We no longer are going to have city-issued permits. It's all going to be through the state. So the business itself would not be a massage establishment requiring obtaining a conditional use permit. But the person providing massage, unless they were, I think, a LVN or a RN, if you're just a massage therapist, you need to have a CAMTC certificate. Acupuncturists are a little bit different. We don't give them the same latitude. We don't have to by state law, and throughout the state, there's been a huge problem with acupuncturists renting out their offices, saying, oh, yes, they're working under me, and really, they're just fronts for illegal activity.
Well, I've seen that, that occurred in the city of Los Angeles through chiropractor's office.
It did. Unfortunately, our hands are more tied with chiropractors and the other businesses that are listed in 2A on page 8 of 27 as to how we can regulate them. But we did go as far as we could with the acupuncturists. They still have to be working under the supervision of the physician, surgeon, chiropractor, osteopath. So you can't have a chiropractor, I can't be a chiropractor, have a satellite office that just does massage. That's not directly supervising.
What if it's not, what if the relationship between chiropractor and massage therapist is, they're not employed by the chiropractor, or if they're just acting as an independent
I-
contractor?
I think they, it's been a while since I've looked at this. I think they are supposed to be an employee, the way our ordinance is written.
In the definitions, under Z, it does say, and define proof of bona fide employment. Talks about the role of the EDD and them having to prove through payroll that they are an employee.
Okay.
Don't know if it addresses your issue, though. It's defined.
All right.
The
Because
concern,
from a practical point of view, Tom and I have that a lot. People coming in and wanting to get a business license. Well, you don't need a business license. You're an employee of an existing business, like a hair salon. Hair salon rents a chair. They're not an employee of the business.
Right.
So if you're an employee of the business, like and you're paid by the salon, you don't need a business license.
Right.
Because the salon then gets the employee tax on it. But if you're the other way around, you're required to come get your own business license. So the people at the counter asking about how to get a massage permit ask all the right questions. They do. They try to maneuver through.
So if somebody was an independent contractor, they would be required to get their own business license?
Their own business license.
And then the chiropractor's business would also have to get a massage establishment permit if they weren't employed, the way this ordinance is drafted. And again, it sounds draconian, but these are the problems that have proliferated throughout the state.
Lisa represents San Gabriel, and they're in the thick of it. Them and Stanton really have been in the thick of this. So much that the state is kind of overseeing their new laws and their writing of their laws so much that Lisa really waited a little until those got codified to do ours. So she granted you guys that kind of flexibility, so you weren't the first ones through the gate. We wanted to see how they stuck and whether there was any lawsuits based on those cases and those ordinances.
I have another question. This CAMTC nonprofit is going to issue the certifications, and they're going to enforce. Are they the enforcement arm of this?
Yes, CAMTC issues the massage certificates, and then they can revoke, suspend those certificates. They work in concert with cities when there's a prostitution arrest. The police are supposed to send up the police reports if it's a certified massage therapist. They do declarations for the police or whoever the code enforcement is to sign so they can go through the suspension and revocation proceedings from the state end.
Okay, so they use local law enforcement to actually do the enforcement.
Right, we find the violations and then they revoke. And we're free to cite them for prostitution in violation of whatever codes we find, but the goal is also to get their certificates revoked.
Okay.
and the provider that has a license, for instance, a chiropractor or medical provider that has one, do they actually have to operate at that site as well?
Yes.
so they truly know satellite, and they can't do like they do with the marijuana homes where they just, everybody gets a license
No.
or thing, okay.
No, the Code of Regulations specifies what adequate supervision is, and you have to be on site. Because what happens, you go in, it's like, well, where's the patient's medical records if they're patients of the chiropractor? You know, this, if your patient's the chiropractor, why do you have a walk-in welcome sign? That's not what it's supposed to be for.
I'm reading here on page 8, where it addresses the acupuncturist. How is that any different than the chiropractor, osteopath, surgeon? I'm not seeing the distinction.
The acupuncturist cannot have an employee providing massage therapy. If they have an employee providing massage therapy, then they also have to have the massage establishment whatever we call it, certificate of operations. If you're an chiropractor and you have an employee with a nurse or somebody, or you have a massage therapist on your staff who provides massage, you're okay, and you don't have to get the conditional use permit and the certificate of operation.
It's under their scope of practice.
Okay, but just if it's a registered nurse or licensed?
Well, it could be
That's-
somebody who has a CAMTC certificate. If I had a CAMTC certificate, I could be employed by a chiropractor to provide massage on the premise. I could also be employed by a doctor, surgeon, osteopath, but that's not really where the problems are. They're with the acupuncturists and the chiropractors.
Okay. Any other questions for staff?
I got a whole bunch of stuff, but just for questions, on the, there was a mention here about out-call. Are we allowing an establishment to have out-call massage? I mean, to me,
Where are you looking at that, Art, just so?
on page 10 of 27 on the ordinance, CC ordinance TBD, page 10 of 27. Article 2, massage practitioners and massage therapists, 5.32.040, state certification required. In the first sentence under A, no person shall provide, including alcohol, I'm sorry.
You have to have a CAMTC certificate
Oh, yeah.
if you do it.
Without having, but are we going to allow it? That was my question.
That is one of the sticking points between CAMTC and the League of California Cities. CAMTC has said under 1147, you cannot prohibit out-call massage, and the league has said, yes, you can. Do we allow it, Steve, in our? So if it were allowed under the zoning, then this would apply. If it's not allowed
Look
under,
under the exemptions. Well, if it was
Would-
out-call, it wouldn't have a physical address, and it wouldn't be in the zone.
Well, they'd just be operating however they want. Will they go to the customer then?
They could be, yeah, they'd go to the customer and they'd have a business somewhere. It could be, like you do when you're in a resort area, like Sedona, right? They come to your hotel. They come to your home all the time.
My wife wouldn't like that.
Well, I'm gonna keep looking through the
That,
exemptions.
that seems like interesting to me that out-call would be allowed when you're saying it has to be under direct supervision. So is the chiropractor or doctor going to go and show
no,
up?
this
at the-
is just in general. I mean, this is just for a CAMTC therapist. We're no longer talking about chiropractors and acupuncturists there. We're saying nobody can provide massage services in the city unless they have a CAMTC certificate, unless they fall under one of those other exemptions that we talked about.
Another question in the broad sense
Can,
here.
before you go there,
Oh, sorry.
that will protect those that do houses because they actually go to those homes and do massage on those people. On your
The
terminal.
alcohol?
On, yeah. On
I mean,
terminals.
certainly, and the league has recognized that despite all the negative publicity and all the problems, there's still a real therapeutic benefit to massage services. And that's been the push from the CAMTC versus the league.
Right.
Okay.
Under, on the next page, under operator permit, starting with that A and going all the way through to the next page, through E. Okay, we have all of this verbiage about what they have to provide and everything. But at the very beginning, if I remember reading it properly, we're going to require operators and everybody to have the CAMTC.
No.
Oh, we're not.
How this will work, an operator is an owner or a manager of a business. I can own or manage the business without actually giving the massage. So I can own the business. In that case, I need to get an operator permit and provide all this.
Okay.
If I happen to have a CAMTC certificate as well, and I've gone through the state background, then we're not going to require them to go through our background check.
All right.
But you don't have to,
All right, so, okay.
so that's the reason for that.
And then on that same page, the 13 of 27 at the bottom, A, the operator of the massage establishment is responsible for verifying that all persons hold
I'm sorry, what?
K.
Okay,
That's in-
thank you.
On page 13 of 27. They're responsible for verifying that
They're,
employees
Or-
anybody working for them has the CAMTC certificate.
right.
Do we verify that as well? I mean,
Well, yes.
do we rely on them to tell us the truth?
It's not hard to verify because there's a website and you just put in the name of the
Well, I
person,
guess
it
that's-
comes up. We try and do it too, especially if they come in for their own independent license. Actually, and I think in San Gabriel, our finance person actually, when they get the list of employees, they go in and verify that they're CAMTC certified. But we also want to put in that requirement
Right.
because we want to be able to pull an operator permit. We've managed to close down 3 or 4 businesses in San Gabriel in the
Right.
past few years because the operators aren't. I didn't know they were doing prostitution just because it was the 3rd arrest in my business. I didn't, I was on Rub Maps. I didn't know. So we want them to be responsible as well, and it's a way to
Okay.
weed out the bad apples.
I got a lot of stuff. I'll just kind of keep wading through. Okay, going into the next page, on page 15.
Okay.
This is on item G, where this is getting where they have been closed for criminal activity or whatever. The last sentence says, "This provision is not meant to prohibit the issuance of a certificate of operation to a business which initially failed to obtain a certificate without any prior written notification by the city that was, as such, was required." So if somebody comes in
So,
and my question is, why not? I mean, why don't we prohibit them if they come in here and open up without,
we were getting pushback from hearing officers on that one of, well, okay, so they came in, they didn't do it right.
they ignore our laws,
They ignored the law, but you go out and you say, okay, you're closed now until you get the CUP. That we didn't mean that, then you could never open there. We felt that was draconian.
okay.
But if you have the letter from the city that says you need a CUP and a certificate of operation and an operator permit, and you continue to do business, then we'll close you down if you just ignore us. There is a language barrier with a lot of these businesses.
On the same page, and I'm gonna, this is just from, as a landlord, okay, I'm not dealing with dealing with, residential tenants. I think whenever, this says, it says in item H here that upon issuance of a certificate, then you send written notice advising the issuance of the certificate. That's great that you notify them, but also when there are violations or
Somewhere
The
in
suspension,
this mess,
you know,
it goes
with-
to them. It goes to
yeah,
the
make sure
landlord.
that because they probably have leases that,
And we want them, when they apply, they also have to have the landlord's signature on the application as well. And the reason for that is, under the red light abatement statutes, if there's illicit activity going on, there's severe penalties for commercial landlords that are allowing this type of activity, up to $50,000
okay.
in penalties. So we don't want a landlord to come and say, hey, I had no idea there was a massage business there. I didn't know what the rules were of the massage business. We've sent red light abatement letters in Gardena. They kicked the business out. Once they got the letter that said you can be on the hook for up to $50,000, done.
And on
But I don't think it addresses Art's issue.
Somewhere it
I
does.
don't see
in-
where suspension,
yeah,
and it brings in absence
yeah,
of
that's
property
on,
owner.
that's on the next page. I've got it noted under B. I just got a note that says include the property owner.
Somewhere it's in there, I'd have to pull it out, but I know we have that.
Upon issuance of a notice suspension or revocation operator, the operator must cease all work. There's no other person to do
I mean, this is, at the time of the not at the time
It's
of the
under
alleged
532,
violation, even if it's,
100.
yeah.
532.
But on that same page, under suspension on item A4, on page 16 of 27, number 4, if there is substantial evidence of prostitution, why does it have to be substantial? How about just if there's any evidence of prostitution? I mean, what's the degree, you know? I mean, why would we give them that wiggle room?
Because you're not going to be able to prosecute and uphold if there's not substantial
I mean,
evidence. We, again, been kicked by hearing officers saying, I don't see it there, that wasn't enough. It's kind of a call that's made by the chief of police, city attorney, and I would assume DePere? Steve? Is that
Yeah.
the name?
Yeah,
Why don't we say that, then?
prosecutor.
Say what?
That there is evidence of prostitution sufficient for prosecution?
I think
Well, that might
substantial
be
evidence.
too high, that might be too high of a standard.
I think substantial evidence.
all right, I'm just,
Covers it.
I don't know the legal ins and outs. It just seems to me if there's any evidence that it's there, then it's evidence. It's not an allegation, right? It's an whatever.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine. And then why do we have this pre-appeal?
Due process. Due process rights. You can't just shut down a business once you've said, you can't be judge and jury. You can't say, hey, here's your notice to suspend. We found substantial evidence of prostitution, and you're closed until the appeal happens and the decision on the appeal, which could be 4 months down the line, 5 months down the line. So in accordance with due process principles and case law, if you give them this ability to ask for a pre-appeal determination, and then the chief of police can look at it and say, I'm not really so sure that this is going to rise to a full suspension level or revocation, I'll let you continue operation during that time. So far, it's only come into play once, and the chief of police said, no, there was substantial evidence, go ahead and close down.
Okay. One more, if you don't mind. On page 17, the next page, items under suspension and revocation FB. it talks about, in the second sentence, if there is no other person who has an operator permit which is not the subject of a suspension or revocation proceeding, then all massage activity at the establishment will also cease. The
So-
way I'm reading that is that, say there's two partners, or there's two people at the establishment that have operator permits, but let's say on this guy's shift, let's say they divide the work,
Exactly.
on this guy's shift, they're engaging in prostitution, and you're going to go ahead and shut the place down. You can't shut it down if he's got a partner
Exactly.
with a license,
Operator permit. that
because
that
he
you're also
wasn't,
not
how,
Suspending.
I'm not understanding the logic to that. I mean, it's,
You're,
they own the business,
you have to remember too, this is, if there's evidence of prostitution, and we've looked on rubmaps.com, which is a list of where people get to go and put reviews.
oh, where's that?
Got the website right on your desk.
Then you'd say, okay,
Not
we're
safe
going to
for
go
work.
after both operators. But sometimes there are other violations, like you're not posting your picture when you're there. The towels weren't sanitary, or it's not.
Well, I understand that part, but this
And-
has to do with shutting them down because
It's-
you are shutting them down, but you can't shut them down because they've got two people there that have an operating
Well,
license.
but what I'm saying is if it was something as severe as prostitution, we'd be pulling all the operator permits. We would be revoking, so everybody would be subject. There would be nobody left. If there's, let's say Wendy and I own the business, and we both have operator permits. There's prostitution, both of us are going to have our operator permits undergo suspension revocation. But if for some reason I'm just really sloppy and I never put up the sign that says you have to, my picture up there, and there are other little things that are really not so much of how the business as a whole is being operated, but maybe more directed to that specific operator, then it doesn't seem fair to shut the business down for everybody. You just pull out the bad person and they can't take part in it anymore.
Well, it just doesn't say that. Everything that you said doesn't, I mean, if we're trying to,
Well, if they're not.
it seems to me that, I hear what you're saying, for a minor issue, I understand that, but it doesn't, there's no delineation between a minor issue
And that's kind of intentional.
Oh, is it?
That it's hard to delineate specifically in there because sometimes it's so fact-specific. Have you violated the lighting requirements because you have the lights, but you've used 40-watt bulbs instead of 60-watt bulbs, but you have the lights? Or have you gone and thrown red scarves intentionally over all of the lights, so you've got opaque colorings and colors and different type things? I mean, it's a lot like what the Supreme Court said once upon a time on pornography. I know it when I see it. It's very hard to articulate it item by item in the ordinance, and you don't want to tie your hands so much that then
Right,
you can't
okay.
prosecute.
Okay, Art, right above that on F1, it does say owner of the property right there, if it's different from the operator or certificate holder. So it does have a way to notify the absentee landlord.
And-
F1, and then almost the last paragraph before A,
Oh, I got you right, okay.
so it does say that already.
Yes, okay, all right. I see that.
Is
I
that,
might have other stuff, but go ahead. I'll.
is that a
Yes. Keep going.
suspension or revocation considered a closure of the business? I mean, I'm trying to
A temporary
delineate the
closure.
distinction between,
The chief of police could say, we're going to punish you, we don't think it was bad enough, you've got a 1-month suspension. You can't operate for 1 month, maybe that'll make you got time out.
okay,
Versus revocation, you're closing the business down.
okay. I just wanted to clarify on that, because on the previous page, it talks about closure and then no certificates of operation being issued for that location for a 2-year period. Okay.
On page, on 5 of 6, this is, I guess, back in, is this the staff report? Under the changes, prohibition on buzzer, alarm, or intercom system. I understand that. Would we consider requiring, because I know we've done this before on like requiring maybe a video surveillance type camera just in the reception area and in the front? Just, we'll call, I mean, I know we did something like that on the 7-Eleven, didn't we? We required that they have a video,
Yeah, for security.
for security, right? Can we require that, but only for the reception area and the front? I mean, my thinking on that is, it's for security, but, if they are doing anything illegal and people are coming in there to do anything that's illegal, if there's a sign there that says this is under video surveillance, I mean, it's going to, I would think,
Sure.
They come
maybe
in the back door.
discourage.
Well, it's a different kind, it's illicit, illegal
Yeah,
activity as opposed to overt somebody committing a robbery, but
Right.
either way, those people do not want to be identified.
Exactly.
So,
But now you're assuming that person, one may be coming for the legitimate massage while the other one isn't.
The one
How do you
legitimate
just
doesn't
bring-
care. He doesn't care.
Well, that's true, but they can just bring them in the back door.
Yeah, I think what you're doing tonight is you're creating some further research for Lisa to go back
Yeah,
and see
I'm-
how far we can push it and bring back some edits. There's a couple of comments that have been made, she's writing down, so she'll take that issue and see if she thinks she can include that without hitting a wall. So
And
keep
one
it
other,
com-
one other idea.
Of course, those don't have to come back, those go on to the council, because it's 5.3.
Correct, yeah.
And this is from my conversation with a commercial broker who said there's really nothing in Long Beach. Okay, which turns out there is.
Share it with them, because
Yeah,
I give.
I had a conversation today with a friend of mine who's a commercial broker, and he goes, I told him, hey, we're talking about massage. And I said, what do you know about it? And he says, well, if you can keep them out, keep them out. I said, well, you can't keep them out. You got to do, oh, okay. He said, well, go talk to Long Beach. He said, they have none over there. And I go, really?
Yeah,
And I
no.
go, yeah, and I go, and so anyway, let's see, But he also made a comment that was interesting. He said they get calls for cities, okay, for locations, right? And he said that the square footage range primarily is anywhere from 12 to 1,500 square feet. And he said, really? He said, if you wanted to try to curtail or he said, why not have a minimum square footage requirement on the business of somewhere around 2,000 to 2,500 square feet, which he said if you go to like Massage Envy, stuff like that, which are legitimate establishments, they're large, and then also with parking, since these do fall under a therapeutic, I mean, we have that in our resolutions that, this is a skillful practice, can provide health benefits and pain relief. It's not really a doctor's office. It's not really a physical therapy office. You're kind of a hybrid in between, and maybe treat it as a special use and attach a parking requirement like you would for medical of I think it's like one space for every 200 feet or something like
I
that.
think Tom's going to look at
Tom's looking at the table.
what the current parking is.
And you could,
That's right.
put a little more burden, either via square footage if that's, I
The
don't know.
minimums, one thing the league has strongly cautioned on is that the legislation made clear that the ordinances have to be reasonable. This is like, the reason we got AB 1147 was because the first one had a sunset date in it. So it had to go through review, and that's when San Gabriel and Staten and Huntington Beach and all the
1 to
cities
200.
started screaming and yelling and going to the legislators and saying, you can't let this be extended. There was a specific committee that had to review it. AB 1147 sunsets in 2 years, too. We get to go through this whole playing field in 2 years, which personally, in my opinion, wasn't long enough because nobody's going to have time to actually see the progress of what's been made.
So if setting minimums might be
So.
too
Right.
restrictive.
So if you set a minimum and then you get a sole practitioner saying, I can't operate in that city because there's no way I can afford to lease a 1,000 or 2,000 square foot space, we may wind up with another swing of the pendulum
All right.
back. So,
So how about then, can we treat them for what they are as far as a special use?
but parking
And then
certainly,
parking, then attach a parking, let's say medical, which is more what it's akin to.
1 per 200.
Yeah.
is that what it requires now?
That's what medical requires.
What does
Yeah.
this require?
And
What do you
it's
require massage now? You- do you
1
see
to
it as-
200 because they're similar also to health spas too. 'Cause,
Yeah.
I mean, they're often
Okay, so
called
they're
health spas.
already-
They're already at 1 and 200.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, and that was one of the things we couldn't do before, is the parking had to be the same as beauty salon.
But if they're coming into our CG zone, like if you were to come into an area, let's say an area that's impacted like where Baja Sonora is, how could they meet? Of course, that's a whole different, deal.
Let's not
Yeah.
open that
No,
shopping
we don't
sale.
want to open any other location, what's in the CG, what's the normal parking requirement?
1 to 250 for commercial, but once it becomes a certain size, then
If it's a
it's,
30,000 square foot shopping
then
center,
it's-
there's a
which-
little more exception.
yeah.
And is Vaughn's the only one?
Yeah.
Vaughn's
and
and Center Plaza are
yeah,
the
and
only
Center
ones that
Plaza.
hit that ratio.
And we basically do research it ahead of time, how much parking problem there is in a center, and we talk to the person about it ahead of time and say, you really should have more spaces, and this may not be a good place for you to go.
So
So,
that would get subject to
Yeah.
the planning commission's review.
Right.
Yeah.
This is now
That's the whole idea, would be to try to,
Well, yeah, and that's an important thing to remember is that these will come before us, right?
Right.
So we
Yeah.
will have some discretion.
One of the saving graces is that our city's code requires a CUP for anything open 24 hours. So we already don't discriminate against massage in that aspect because we do that for all businesses. So we're already lucky to do that. We won't be challenged on singling them out in the after hours issue. So
we
right now they can't be open past 10
right.
unless they get a CUP.
and then we can say no, and we,
Or you can condition it, or you can deny it.
all right.
What about their licenses? Can we make it mandatory that they're posted for people's review that come in to know? Or do you know how that can work?
Posting?
Their
That just-
CAMTC license?
Well,
Certificate?
depends on whether, some of them are through the Consumer Affairs, through the California boards. You can look them up online.
For
Okay?
massage therapists?
You got no power.
Those are people who are
Your
licensed.
nursing, your
Right, who are
chiropractic,
allowed to
your
do
others.
certain.
Wires?
They have licenses. Can we
I
request that
would
they?
not touch
Blew up two
anything
real-
that is state licensed, on the grounds that we'd be preempted.
Do we have any other questions for staff? I'd like to open up the public hearing.
Upstairs.
No questions.
John, I
Are you
think
good?
The public hearing's already open. It's been open since the last 2 meetings.
Oh,
on
okay.
this topic. Yeah, we started this 2 meetings ago,
Right.
so I think you're okay on that.
Yeah, I think I wasn't at that meeting, so, okay. Well, I just want to make sure
Thank you.
that we invite anybody up to speak. So if we don't have any other questions right now, I'll see if anyone wants to come up and speak on this item. So if there is anyone that would like to come forward and speak on this item, please step forward and do so now. All right, seeing no one come forward. Do I have a motion?
So you, go ahead, Art.
One more question regarding the appeal. If there is an appeal, the appeal doesn't come back to us?
The,
I mean,
what
for any-
is the
For
appeal?
suspension, revocation?
No. That is the chief of police, and then I think, in this city, did we go city manager?
City manager.
City manager has
City
a role.
city manager or hearing officer, what we wind up doing normally is the city manager designates a hearing officer to hear it and issue a decision. Because it becomes a very ugly issue for a city manager to have to deal with.
So how would we do a motion on this? Because we mentioned some items to you that we might want to have.
Items you've mentioned were really for the business license provisions that go on to the council, so you're not taking action on that. The only thing I really have noted was that video surveillance for the front office you wanted to see added, because our parking's already,
Well, I think, kind of to Art and Wendy's point, not for that front desk, but also points of entrance or egress, right? So, back door,
Camera.
Video surveillance.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, just for the reception areas and the entrances.
yeah, entrances or
security.
exits. Because when Wendy said, oh, they can sneak them in the back door, well, then you put a camera at the back door, too.
And post it that there is, you know, that's, I think you have to anyway, that whenever you have video surveillance, you have to let people know, don't you?
so
That
that's,
would have to-
so that's something that I'll just take a look at, and if we can do it, we'll add it.
Because that's
into the
something we
city
require
policy.
anyway in our city. We've required, it's not, we're not treating them any different.
Certainly, that's something you could require as part of your conditional use permit, too.
Right.
We have required it for similar businesses.
I have a question.
For businesses where you have concerns, yes.
I have a question, just for clarification. Now, you said, was it said earlier that if somebody with the
CAMTC.
permit is providing massage, whether as an employee or as an independent contractor in a chiropractor's office, then that place becomes a massage establishment?
If they are an independent contractor, the way the ordinance is written, it says an employee of the chiropractor.
So is this video surveillance going to extend
I-
to chiropractors?
I would
That's
say
the-
no,
No.
we're talking massage
I think that's
establishment.
Right.
overreaching.
Right.
Yes,
So it does not, so if they're employee, it does become a massage establishment?
if they're independent contractors.
They would just have to have the license, the CMP piece.
If they're independent contractors, then the business becomes a massage establishment. Now, you can recommend that change, too, if you think it's okay for a chiropractor to have a independent contractor, as opposed to somebody on their payroll to come in and give massage. That's right.
Well, I'm just worried about this video surveillance extending to a lot of,
But no, we're talking about massage establishments, not,
but you said if they,
right, but then they
becomes
don't
one.
fall under the rules anymore. So I agree, it becomes problematic when you're in a doctor's office, and I really hate to open a door on doctors' offices. And again, maybe something better put in as a condition on a CUP than codified. There may be places where you say, this type of business, it's not a problem if Massage Envy comes in. Does Massage Envy need a video
I
surveillance?
think that might be overreaching. I'm not sure that we
Mhm.
should
Yeah.
think that through. I'm not thinking massage envy, I'm thinking of chiropractor offices where the relationship is either an independent contractor working and now they become a massage establishment.
Do they become a, if a,
If they are, the way the ordinance is written, if a chiropractor hires you as an employee to provide massage in your business, no rules. You don't need a CUP, you're not a massage establishment. If a chiropractor, doctor, osteopath uses an independent contractor to come in, they're not on the payroll, and they're just providing massage without being an employee to theoretically to the chiropractor's patients, then they do become a massage establishment, and they'd have to get a CUP.
could we redefine
Could we,
that?
yeah, redefine that and.
That it has to be
include-
patients or something.
Well, no, include as, not only as an employee, but as an independent contractor, they're both exempted?
But
Can
I
I have
thought
that?
that earlier she said that that's kind of where issues have come in when they have a bunch of independent contractors who are kind of using
Yeah.
their
Yeah.
office.
Let
Yeah.
me give you an example. I go to a chiropractor and he says, use my girl, pay her on your own. She's in the office next door. Then you have an independent person, totally independent. The money's not even coming through the chiropractor. Then you have just a girl in another room. You could have 5 girls in 5 different rooms.
And that was
Right.
what was happening also with
And then-
the chiropractor office.
But then we'd want that to be an establishment that went through that licensing process.
Right.
So that's where it morphs.
But you
And so
don't,
Lisa's written something to try to protect it from morphing.
I agree, and that's necessary, but what if the situation, you're not paying that person independently, you're paying the chiropractor's office, and they're paying the person, but they're not actual employees? I mean, that's
You can
goes,
be an independent contractor, so the payment can still go through the front desk.
Then they should be an employee in order
Yeah.
to, if they
No.
don't want to be considered, if they don't want to go through the hoops of being an establishment, then the chiropractor has to hire them and get them on the books.
In all honesty, if it's a legitimate place and they're an independent contractor versus employee, we're never gonna know.
Yeah, I was gonna say, Who's a chiropractor?
Let me-
That's a good statement, yes.
Yeah,
She's-
let me ask you a little differently, though. Can it be done off of 1099, clarification? If you came to me and I got $100 from you, cash, to do it, I'm not getting the 1099, because that cash is gonna get pocketed. But if you go to the chiropractor and you pay the chiropractor, and yet I'm an independent contractor, but the chiropractor gives me a 1099, does that not at least kind of protect the chiropractor and the practice as well? Does that change any of that?
Yeah, I think it said EDD,
Yeah, that's what I
employment
thought.
records in here.
Yeah, so you've got
Let me
to,
go back and look at if employee is
This is a good
defined.
test.
I mean,
what page are you looking at?
and this was written a long time ago.
And then you also have that last sentence in G.
Oh,
G.
actually, employee includes independent contractor.
What page is that?
That's 4 of 27. I'm sorry, these were written months and months
So
ago.
there's an exemption on
So
both?
actually, yes, there's an exemption for both. I apologize for not remembering that we defined employee to include an independent contractor. So,
For,
anyway, so if
Oh, that's on J.
so if the chiropractor has an independent contractor and they're providing massage under his direct supervision, they don't need the CUP or the massage establishment.
But it's the way I said it, they do.
What?
Handing the girl money over in the corner in the
And-
chiropractor's office.
right, not
Because they're
legitimate.
neither an employee nor a 1099
Right,
employee.
right,
Right.
right. I'm renting space out.
Okay, and then the other, Art had an issue on G, at the last sentence, he wanted you to dig a little into that before I went to council.
G what?
Page 15 and 27.
There's lots of Gs.
yeah,
He wanted you to dig into that last sentence and see if that could be played with before it went to council. So I think
I'll look at it.
video surveillance, Art, you wanted that issue maybe tested a little by Lisa? And
Page
then
16.
15?
15.
That was the,
the
G.
provision's not meant to prohibit the issuance.
We don't want
no,
to.
no, that was okay with that.
You okay? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's.
So we're down to video surveillance then?
What we were having is some of our cities, some cities in the state have gotten real happy about trying to do a gotcha.
Right.
And just say, no, you can't come in, you can't come in. So you open up, I'm sure you've had businesses that have opened up and you go and you say, we know that because we've had them here in front of us. You didn't have a business license, the other CrossFit one, what's her name, the first one? Nikki, right? We didn't say, okay, you're shut down, and she said, I didn't know, I didn't realize, and, you know. It wasn't meant to say you never get to open up, you're permanently closed there. What this one is meant to stop is what happens consistently is you're in violation. I'm going to issue a criminal citation against you. I'm going to prosecute you. And you're going to sell the business to your sister in the meantime. And it just keeps turning over and turning over. So these provisions were really meant to stop this turnover of businesses from shell to shell to shell. I mean, luckily, Los Alamitos has not really had the problem with massage establishments.
That is what happened with Queen, though. Queen, when Queen came in, they had a guy who had a lot of tenacity that went, so he read our code word for word for word and designed his project to skirt very specifically around it. Because he had the tenacity, he had the wherewithal, he got the approval, and then he sold it immediately, and went on to the next one, and to the next one. So what most of these people that work in these are very timid. They'll run down the alleys when you walk into the building. But the owners are the savvy ones, and then they sell it for a profit, flip it, and go to the next city where they can test their codes. And that's what happened with Queen. We crossed our T's and dotted our I's with that one to every bit of the code, including last-minute inspections, curtains on the window, hours, everything. Regular visits, the sign permits, everything. We did not give them a COO until absolutely everything was covered. But that guy had a lot of tenacity and was gotten through the process. But he sold it immediately. And honestly, we haven't had a big criminal with that one, right? We haven't had criminal
No, with that one.
complaint.
So when you asked what the motion would be,
Yeah, I mean, our discussion items, would that affect?
no, your
Oh, okay.
motion still remains the same. You didn't make any changes to the zoning ordinance. You didn't really have a lot of questions
this-
about the.
Oh,
the
this one I
zo-
have.
Oh, are we still there? We're not ready to go on? That's fine. So we're not ready for a motion.
Is that,
So that's the one amending Title 17.
It's only the two-page.
This isn't zoning.
no.
It's-
No, I'm looking at it.
We're talking 7A, correct, for the
It's
motion?
attachment 1,
Attachment
Yeah,
3.
that was fine.
Attachment
not
3.
attachment 1?
Attachment 3 is the draft
Yeah, it's amending Title
ordinance
17.
that would amend Title 17. Attachment 1 is the resolution recommending that the council approve Attachment 3.
Yeah, resolutions aren't the new laws. The ordinances are the new laws. The resolution is your vehicle that conveys it to the city council.
Right.
So-
The only comment I have on that is in the whereases.
Which one?
The last one, or the last two, whereas other cities have experienced problems with massage establishments in terms of prostitution and human trafficking. To me, I just want to say, what cities and what problems? I mean, and then the next one is one that really, I wonder about.
We don't even need that whereas anymore because we took out our distance requirement.
Okay, good. And then the other one is, other cities have experienced problems with massage establishments being located, and then the individuals will run out the back door.
Right, that's the one I'm saying,
You're
we
taking
can
that
take
one out,
that
right?
one out.
Okay, good.
That was when we were talking about a distance requirement.
I was
but
just
we
thinking
didn't
that
put
you
the
should, in your whereases, that since the establishment, in that one where it says other cities have experienced problems, the one above it, it seems like you almost ought to have, since the establishment, or following the establishment of SB 731, there were, many cities experienced an increase in problems with massage related to prostitution or whatever. That's a good idea. You know, so, I mean, tie it right to what they did to us. And then,
Okay, so it'll read, since the establishment of SB 731, many cities have experienced problems with massage establishments in terms of prostitution and human trafficking.
yeah, and then the
We're
rest of
going
it.
to kill the next
And then
whereas.
the last one. That was my only thought on that. Is that the one we need a motion on?
That's the one where you would be adopting Attachment 1, which would be the resolution PC 15-08, which recommends that the city council approve the zoning ordinance amendment.
And I'll make that motion.
There you go. I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
You're putting you and her out of business.
Aye. Opposed? None? Motion carried.
So both of those ordinances will move on to the city council. Remember, when you do the notice in the paper, you have to specifically say the planning commission recommended adoption.
Oh, okay.
Now we move on to item 7B, zoning ordinance amendment 1503. consideration to create a medical retail overlay zone. Staff report?
Yes, Mr. Chairman and members of the commission, I'm going to turn this over to Tom in a little bit, but as you remember, the general plan laid the groundwork for several different properties to be rezoned. We've completed the residential over on Sausalito, we've completed the commercial behind you here at Super Media, and the next up, we thought we'd package together these two, for no reason other than to get two on the same docket. The one is the retail overlay zone over Arrowhead, and the other one is the medical overlay zone, allowing the industrial properties at the rear of the medical center across Catalina, wrapping around Kyle, and then going over to Florista and Bloomfield to have medical uses allowed in them as well. And that was a desire of this commission. I think that got its origin with this commission, actually, and then it got incorporated into the environmental impact report for the general plan, and eventually incorporated into the general plan. Now, Tom will walk you through the properties and the maps, and hopefully you're familiar with the area. It coincides with the same general plan map for the areas. Arrowhead had 4 parcels in the general plan. They have 4 parcels in the zoning ordinance. And then the medical area had the same number of parcels in the general plan as it does now. I can't even count those. All notices will be sent to all property owners, all tenants, and all people 500 feet from them in those same categories for both of these areas. And then in future commission meetings, we'll have the limited one for the recreation type fitness places. And then I think we might be wrapping it up. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And then we'll work on substantive changes for the zoning code to coincide with and to clean up any other discrepancies with the general plan. And with that, I'll turn it over to Tom if he has any more detail.
Right. Chair Riley and members of the commission, the first one we'll talk about is the medical overlay zone. That definition is on the screen, but it says, while the underlying land use remains planned industrial, this overlay encourages and permits medical businesses as primary uses on the north side of the Los Alamitos Medical Center campus. And this is before, is this before? Yes, that is before. Those are all planned light industrial. They'll remain planned light industrial in the uses that they can have in those locations, but it will change to PM MOZ, which is medical overlay zone, and those are the right, and those will have the medical uses as possibilities for uses in those zones. As well. And now you can, of course, add to that list if you would like to from other things. But for the most part, it's just under medical services, whatever it says that is in the code. And then the next overlay zone is the retail overlay. While the underlying land use remains planned industrial, just like with the other one, the overlay encourages and permits retail businesses as primary uses on the Arrowhead's products site at the time that the property owner determines that the industrial uses are no longer desired. And that one's fairly straightforward. It's just 4 different parcels there, and they are PM now. And you'll notice the buildings actually cross over the parcel lines too. And they will become PMROZ for retail overlay zone. And these are these are just for your information. Medical services, this is from the definitions in the code if you want to see what those are. And that is it. So it'd be a good time to open for public hearing.
Okay. Yeah, at this time, I'll open the public hearing. If anyone would like to come forward and speak on this item, please do so now. All right, seeing no one come forward, I'll bring it back to the commission. Questions for staff?
Larry,
Yeah, I mean, with no questions for staff, do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to accept the zoning overlay that we've done.
I second it.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None? Motion carried. With that, we move on to items from the Community Development Director.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the commission. Great meeting. I'd like to try and get some input from all of you. You could either do it in writing to me, or you could let me know a little now if there's quick notes. But council at their next meeting is going to be considering the continuing of the filming of these meetings. They wanted some input from you to see whether it's a distraction, whether you think it's something that works, adds to the meeting, or any thoughts you may have regarding it.
I like it.
Can we find out the financial cost of this versus the amount of people that may be actually tuning in? Is it beneficial in that respect for us to continue? And by that I mean, if we have people out in the community, but yet nobody's really looking at the videos, we have to have some way of tracking that, a counter or something, so we know how much is being accessed. Yet we're recording these, we don't have anybody, if only 5 people tie in, is that a lot of money? And I guess that's what I'm looking at.
What we'll do is we'll ask them to place that into their consideration.
I would say that I think for transparency in local government and all that, I think that benefit for people who are interested, and it may not be on every meeting, but it could be any particular topic that comes up that affects them directly, indirectly. They want to see what happened, why it happened. I mean, to have it on YouTube where it can be there forever, they can look at it. I think the transparency and seeing how your government works outweighs whatever little cost we're spending for it. Just like the city council meetings. I mean, I think that's the main thing for me.
Anyone else? You do realize it's not live on LATV now.
Right.
Is there any desire for that? Just so we can give them a full reporting back?
I don't think live is a necessity.
Okay.
I don't know if
I-
there's going to be a lot of demand for that.
No,
you know?
Yeah.
the cheaper way to go in that respect is fine by me.
Yeah, but I do think there's value in the transparency, and I've actually used it myself when I've missed a meeting to go back and look and see what I missed.
Yeah, and I don't think it's distracting at all. I mean,
I
after
don't
the
even think
first
about it.
meeting, I completely forgot about it, so.
Yeah.
Should have been here a couple months ago.
Yeah, right.
I remember things.
Okay, we'll forward that on to the city council. Marianne, what was it that you said? You said it wasn't a distraction.
Right.
Flipping off the window?
Yeah.
All right, anything else?
Yeah, my next item is that we have a new guest in our audience, but Larry will welcome you the next meeting. But I'd like to say a few words about our outgoing commissioner, Mr. Will Daniel. And what a pleasure it's been working with him for almost 8 years of my life. And I want you to know what a great addition you were to this commission meeting and how valuable you were for staff. And we really enjoyed it. And I think you made Los Alamitos development better. And I thank you for that.
Well, thank you. And thank all of you for putting up with me in my little idiosyncrasies and stuff. It really was fun working with all of you at various times. And it's definitely a good group, bringing somebody back that was here before. And definitely learned a lot of things, made a few mistakes along the way. So I do thank all of you. And you're a good group, and you bring a very wide variety of talents and interest. I mean, everybody has something that they kind of are interested in and follow, and that's what this commission needs, is a lot of different inputs, and everybody kind of has their hot buttons that they like to see, and that's the value of having 7 people. So again, I thank you. It has been interesting and fun, and hopefully we've done done some good things, which I think we have. And like I said, we made a few mistakes and try not to make those again. But you should feel good. You guys, all ladies and gentlemen, have done a really good job. It has
You know,
been fun.
Thank you.
Will, I really will miss you. You made me smile at every meeting. I always look forward to when Will's going to pop in with something. But you always had great insight, and that I appreciate.
Oh, thank
You were always supportive of everybody here that's been sitting in these situations.
Well,
So I
good.
do really appreciate that. But more than anything, I can't forget, and I'll never forget, White.
Yeah, white.
You and your white.
Yeah. Well, see, that's a hot.
White
What
pink.
color is your house?
Earth tone.
Yeah, well, I really have appreciated serving with you up here, and I think the thing I'll miss most is your candor, and just the fact that you said what you thought, and it always brought value, and that will be missed. And so, but thank you so much for your service. Definitely appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you for your kind words. That's very nice. It means it's, you know, that's good. That's what you want. You want to feel that, you know, you're all part of the team and feel good about what you do. Because it is, even though we do get paid a lot, and one thing that's nice about this city, you can make a little difference. You really can. I think that's the thing that's so fun, is that anybody can serve. I mean, there's plenty of openings. There's not like tons of people, and you can make a difference. And this is really one of the commissions where you can make some big, you know, big strides. I mean, what we've done the last couple of years is it's starting to, you can see the pieces starting to come together. And, you know, I was here for quite a while with other directors or bosses or whatever. And this one, man, you have really, can't tell you how much you've helped the commission, and you've really got us going in the right direction. So you should feel very good about that, because some of your predecessors really, we had so many there for a while, as I remember, that we were just going in all kinds of different directions. So it really is truly a value to have one guy, you know, one leader, and going in one direction that really does take the city's best. Very important. And so you've been a key also to this whole thing. There's just no way we could do what we do without all of you. With the kind of consistency that you've brought to it is great. And you, young lady, you're great too. You really have, you've been very honest as well, and it's a pleasure to work with you as well. So all of you, without all of you, it wouldn't be as near as successful. You'll do great. They haven't changed at all.
Someday
They're still
I'll-
the same, you know.
Someday.
I'm actually a little disappointed that I will not be serving with you, because I, as these guys already alluded to, thoroughly enjoyed being up there with you for the 4 or 5 years that I was up there, and I could always, you know, count on you to bring the life to the party. You got people, what you were able to do was get people to talk and discuss and actually bring those issues to where we could actually have a great conversation about it. Good, bad, or indifferent. It always brought it to the forefront to where people could have a great discussion. So I'm happy and excited to be back doing it again, but I am a little disappointed that you won't be there.
Well, somebody will step up and become a little bit obnoxious. You are. But the other thing is that everybody, you watched the council through the years. It got really personal when people started disagreeing. As you stated, there was really none of that. If we disagreed, we disagreed and moved on to the next one. That was a true saying for all of you, that we never let anything like that get in the way. Where you saw it in the council, we all saw that. Here it was like, hey, okay, move to the next one. What's next? And that's really helps tremendously as well.
The group played well together.
Yeah, we did.
It helps. All right. So with that, we'll move on to commissioner reports. Do I have anything from anybody outside of what's already been said?
Welcome back.
I have one question. There was that, we made that decision and somebody, one of the council members wanted to get more. What happened on that?
In essence, it tied. It was stuck at 2-2, therefore there was no action.
So what happened with the, I mean,
Your decision stands.
Your decision stands.
well, a couple of people didn't like our decision, or?
One person called it up and wanted to bring it up for review, so they had more of the facts, and that happened on Monday night, 2 nights ago. And 2 council members felt one way, 2 council members felt another way. The
They
fifth one
didn't
was...
feel the same, different.
Yeah,
way,
actually,
though.
yeah, you're right. And then the 5th one was recused from it, from being too close to the property. But that's no action. Being 2-2 is no action. You can't win on a 2-2. It has to be a 3-1.
So the person that brought it up, were which way were they leaning? They wanted it stricter, or were we too strict?
They want it strict.
Strict.
Yeah, yeah.
They wanted it stricter?
Yeah, they had a 2-hour discussion to tie 2-2.
Oh. Good, I mean, at least they got involved.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, anything else from anyone up here? All right, with that, meeting adjourned.
Very much.